Howdy, welcome back to the Resilient Reiner podcast. I'm so excited to have Devin Bang with us on the podcast. You probably know her as the founder and creator of Buck The Stigma over on Instagram. Devin is constantly inspired by her experiences and interactions with other competitors, trainers, owners, and friends in rodeo. The idea of Buck the Stigma was sparked not only from her own personal deep struggle with anxiety and depression, but also from other people's struggles as well. After years of feeling alone, she realized the issue of mental health was not properly represented and took the leap to start her own business. I am so thrilled to welcome her to the podcast today. We are cracking open the pressure, the identity weight, and the unspoken mental load that riders carry and mental health in the Western industry. Welcome to the Resilient Reiner, the premier podcast focused on mental performance for equestrians and improved horse show performance. Whether you're a rookie reiner or a seasoned competitor, this show is for riders who want to take their skills to the next level and achieve their full potential in the show ring. I'm Nicole Burnett, and I'm a master mindset coach who's obsessed with helping you achieve all those horse dreams you always thought were impossible. Join me each week to develop a show-ready mindset and gain the competitive edge you need to compete with confidence. Hey there, cowboy. Quick pause before we dive in, because I've got something just for you. If you've been feeling stuck in your horse life, like you should be loving it, but instead you're scared, you're anxious, you're second guessing yourself, or maybe there's a part of you that's wondering if you're just done, I want to invite you to something different. It's called Ride Free. And it's not about showing, and it's definitely not about perfect patterns or ribbons. It's about you, your fire, your confidence, your joy. Ride Free is my new coaching experience for cowgirls who own the horse, but feel like somewhere along the way, they lost themselves. If you're ready to feel bold again, to haul out more often, and actually enjoy the ride, not just survive it, Ride Free was made for you. And here's the important part. Ride Free is application only for this round, and spots are very limited. Applications are due by Monday, June 16th at midnight, and I won't be offering this again for a while. So if you are interested, check the link in the show notes ASAP to get your application in. Let's get you back in the saddle as the cowgirl you were always meant to be. All right, back to the episode.
Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. I'm just thrilled to meet you and have a chat today. So, can you share the story behind Buck the Stigma? What was the moment or the experience that sparked it?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for having me on. It's amazing to meet you, and this opportunity is wonderful. I really appreciate it. But yeah, so Buck the Stigma, the idea behind it came about a few years ago, but it's came about from experiencing anxiety and mental health issues for pretty much my entire life. So I've been riding horses for mostly the same amount of time that I've been dealing with problems with it. So it's always kind of been interwoven, and a lot of the problems that I had dealing with anxiety and dealing with depression definitely kind of leaked over into my life with riding. So in competition or just like the day-to-day life of it. So I began talking to friends about it and kind of realized that a lot of other people deal with the same issues. And I thought it would be great to start a brand where people didn't feel alone. There could be a community and maybe share some fun apparel and all that. And then, if somebody saw somebody wearing that funny shirt, they could be like, hey, what's that about? And it would spark a fun conversation. So that was always the goal.
Yeah. What does that mean to you personally?
Yeah, definitely. So I think especially in the horse industry, there is a little bit of a stigma around mental health, around, talking about your struggles, your emotions, the things you're going through. A lot of people love to share the shiny things and the good and the highlights from their riding experience, but not so much the lows of it aren't necessarily as widely talked about. So I think that just kind of, getting rid of that stigma and making it more of an open conversation was always the goal.
Yeah. Were there early moments where you weren't sure that anybody would care what you had to say? And how did you push through that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. I was very nervous in the beginning. Just, I didn't think anybody would care, or maybe they would think I was just, it was silly or wasn't really worth addressing and that kind of thing. So in the beginning, yeah, there was definitely a lot of hesitation. I was a little nervous, but I started to get some real nice comments and some really nice messages. And I'm like, wow, like people really identify with this and they like it. They love the relatability of it. And I love when, people see the posts or see someone wearing our apparel and they're like, wow, that's me. Like, I didn't know you felt the same way. And I think that that's awesome to just create those connections and people can see they're not alone.
Yeah. It's so powerful when someone can verbalize what you're feeling and you feel so understood.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Especially, because like I said, a lot of people don't really talk about it. And I remember when I was real young and I had a lot of these anxious emotions before I would compete, and it would affect my performance. Like maybe it didn't go very well, or I didn't even remember what happened necessarily because I was just so overwhelmed and nervous.
Mhm.
And I had been experiencing that for so long that I just thought it was normal. I didn't really think anything of it and didn't talk about it a whole lot with friends or other people my age because one, it was embarrassing. I felt like I had all the skills necessary to, be successful, but I just like could not do it. And so part of me was a little embarrassed, and then part of me just didn't know that it was something other people experienced too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When you're sharing some of those things, was there a post or a message that surprised you with how deeply it resonated with people?
Yeah, definitely. I think that as I started kind of changing my social media strategy and sharing some different things and some more relatable situations and just reading all the comments and like seeing the positive engagement with it, I was so surprised. Like I mean it was wonderful. I'm really glad, and it's like I've kind of tapped into this community of other riders that deal with all the same things, and like we just all didn't even really know it. So that it has been super special.
Yeah. Um, is there a stigma that you personally wrestled with the most, and how did you unlearn it?
Yeah, so I think a big one in the horse industry is we glorify like the hustle of work as hard as possible, do as much as you can and put the horse before yourself. Like that one is huge. And I totally get that. I understand, our horse gets the best care. They get the chiropractor and the Magna Wave and all the things. And I can't even remember the last time I, went for a checkup or something, or go to the dentist, or even just like simple self-care stuff. We always put ourselves last. And so I think that kind of reframing that and shifting my perspective of I need to feel good and take care of myself. And then that will help both of us perform better, me and my horse.
No, that's so true. I've even been feeling that recently. My horse was just got a little bit of a rope burn and has been, just chilling, doing great. But I could feel that internally that like, I'm not hustling hard enough. I'm not doing enough. And then I got sick. And it's amazing how you just have to be so proactive in your own mind of, nope, that's not healthy. Or like, if my horse is sick, of course they would get supportive care. They get all these things. Why would I not like, who's caring for them? Why would I not give myself the same thing?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that being able to see those patterns of like how you're thinking and those thoughts and recognizing it is huge, because I mean that's definitely the first part of it, is being able to identify, okay, I'm talking badly about myself about this, or I'm really hating on myself about this situation, and then kind of diving into that and at least catching it. Maybe you're not going to go down the whole rabbit hole of figuring out, oh my God, where did it come from? And I need to talk to a therapist, but like at least notice that it's happening. That's definitely the first step to stopping it, because it's not productive. You're not helping yourself at all. So,
No, and I say that so much with all my clients too, and just even in any of my free content, which is just that awareness really is the first step.
mm,
And don't hate on awareness, because if you are not aware that there's this mental script going through your brain saying so many mean things all day long, you
yeah.
can't begin to change it and have something better. And so there's so much power in just having that awareness.
Yes, exactly. Because if you don't even realize it's happening, it's hard to change it or fix it or replace it with something better, because you don't even necessarily notice that you're doing it. I like to think that I've gotten a lot better at noticing it, but there's still days where maybe I'm a little more tired, or that day is a little more stressful, like whatever's kind of weakening that muscle of noticing it. And it's like, I really got to catch myself and be like, hey, you don't need to be thinking like that. Like, shift your perspective. And the shifting the perspective thing, I think a lot of people kind of, they're like, oh yeah, like that's important, but it's huge. It really is. It changes the way you think about stuff, how you move throughout the day. It can have a big impact.
Yeah. As you're going along, so you've been doing this, for a while with yourself. What does, let's call it healing. What does that look like to you now versus maybe what you once thought it had to be?
Yeah, that's very true. I had started seeing a therapist right probably, I think I was in college or had just gotten out of college, and I had started
Mhm.
seeing a therapist. And since then I've seen, a handful of them, and just kind of learning myself and learning how to recognize those things. And I think that when I first started therapy, I wanted there to be like, okay, do this worksheet and, or figure out where this came from, and then it's going to be solved, and then you'll never experience anxiety again. And, I just wanted it to be this like step-by-step program to success. And something that I'm working through now more recently is just realizing that I need to be doing things to keep myself feeling good and be proactive about stuff. Because I think in the past, I always waited for my anxiety to pop up, or I waited for the depression to set in, or I waited for something kind of bad to happen, like, oh, I'm having a really bad day, I better do something about it. And now I'm trying to kind of shift how I'm thinking about that. And I try to do things every day to keep me feeling good so I don't ever kind of go down that hole again. Yeah.
I relate so much to everything you're saying. I forget who it was, but I saw some post the other day, and this person was like, I've been doing this work for 6 months and have these, amazing light bulb moments, blah, blah, blah. It's very sweet.
Yeah.
But I'll admit, I honestly, like, I laughed to myself because I went, been doing this for years. You don't know
Yeah.
what you've started. Not laughing at her, but just like oh, you don't know what Pandora's box you've opened.
Yeah.
It's just that it's like Shrek, right? There's layers to the onion. And just
Yeah.
that you think, oh, I thought I took care of that. Oh, it's back here again. And
Yeah.
just literally, I did. Yeah, I was just thinking about that recently too, with how I was framing it in terms of it's so much easier to keep up than catch up.
Yeah.
And because I'll catch myself like, oh, I'm just working really hard in the business, or I'll take more appointments, or the kids will have something, and I'll kind of put my own stuff to the side a little bit.
Hmm.
And I literally have just been thinking about that. Nope, I gotta make sure that like part of doing like life, part of me running this business is literally taking the time for myself for all this mental stuff. Because when I do, think it's so much easier.
Yeah.
It's so much easier to bounce between 80 and 100 than to let it creep down to, below 50 and try and claw your way back out. So
Mm.
yeah, I,
Yeah.
yeah, everything you said, just looking, realizing that healing it's not a checkbox.
Yeah.
You're like, I kind of wish it was. But yeah, it's not a checkbox. It's a process. It's just a way of being. And
Yeah, it's a daily process for sure, and I'm big on my schedule throughout the day, and it's like I literally schedule in things to do to, make sure I'm continue to feel good, because I'm the same way. I get very zoned in on my work, or, the productivity of, okay, I need to do this, and this today. And I feel like something I have been seeing over and over, but then it's always been very hard to click for me, or to like really get myself to learn, is like, okay, well, accomplishing more does not always mean that I'm going to feel better.
yes, I'm feeling so connected to you. Keep going.
Yeah, because that's what, I think I didn't realize that's what my train of thought was, but that was always how my actions were leaning towards, is just, oh, I need to get this done, or once I do this, I'll feel good. And, we always have that like destination in our minds of where we're going to be, and then we'll feel better. And it's like, no, you got to do the things daily. And it's the little stuff that people think don't really help, like moving your body. I mean, I'm not much of a gym girly. Didn't play sports other than riding horses when I was younger. And so kind of getting in that habit of getting movement in, being active, even just like going for a walk or something, like if I've been working inside too often, but people don't like to hear it, and it's kind of sucks, but like working out does help.
Yeah, I know. You're like, dang it does make me feel better.
I didn't want it to work, but dang, it really does.
Isn't that funny how sometimes you kind of wish it wouldn't work so that you could be like,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, no, I don't need to do that. But yeah, going for that walk or going to the gym for an hour, man, I really do feel better.
Oh man. It sounds like it's really shaped who you are, like just choosing to have those choices throughout the day. I did that earlier today. I went on a 15-minute walk this morning. I was like, oh, I've got 15 minutes. I'm going to go on a short walk. So how else has it shaped who you are today? It's turned you into going to the gym.
Yep. I think it's also, I need to learn to be more empathetic with myself, but it's also made me more empathetic with other people. I think I understand that everybody's going through things. I think I more openly give compliments and encouragement more, because I can understand how impactful that can be. And it comes from a place of like, I feel confident in myself, and I'm trying to go down my own path. And I think that it's made it easier to, cheer other people on too, because we get this thought in our head, I don't know where it came from, like that there's only so many seats at the success table, like there's only so many spaces for everybody, and their success is going to take away from ours, and it's not true. So I think that understanding how much community and socializing, having friendships is huge. And so, really reaching out to people and being kind, like that's been a huge, I know it impacts me a lot, and it makes me feel really good, and other people are kind to me. So I try to do my best to do it for other people too. Yeah.
For riders and athletes who, let's say they're struggling with anxiety or some identity pressure, what would you say is a starting point to reframe how they see themselves?
So I think that when I was younger, high school, even college, I didn't have a good understanding of why I was feeling the way I was, or why my heart was racing and I couldn't think straight, or I would go in to, run my run and I felt like I was totally blacking out. Like I barely even remembered it. And I didn't know that that was the anxiety. And then once I realized it was, I think I developed this really negative relationship with it. I hated my anxiety. I'm like, it is trying to ruin my life. I'm not going to accomplish XYZ. I'm never going to reach the level that I want to reach because it's holding me back. I had this horrible relationship with it. And I think that as I learned more about the anxiety and where it comes from and how really it's trying to help us, it's just a little too much. It's trying to help too much.
Exactly.
It needs to back off a little bit. Like she's doing too much. And so I think as I realized that, I was kind of able to shift my perspective on it, and just, I was reading out of a book the other day and said something about how they was giving different strategies about how to cope with it or recognize it and then move on, because a lot of people just try to push it down when they try to ignore it and get rid of it. And okay, if I don't acknowledge it, then it's not real, and it's like, so not true. Because it will always creep up and get you, and it will come out in all kinds of crazy ways. But one thing that I've been repeating this a lot lately is, now I kind of look towards it and I'm like, hey, I know this anxiety is trying to help me, but thank you. I appreciate your help. I don't need it. I got this. And then I just try to move on. And it's been kind of a good way to bridge then acknowledging it, thanking it, saying, hey, I know you're trying to help too much, I got this. And then kind of shifting my perspective to the present moment, because that's also what it takes you away from the present. So just kind of trying to be in the moment also helps.
Yeah. So when we talk about anxiety, mental performance, all these different topics, it can really, for a lot of folks, it can feel like we're broken, like we have to just fix ourselves. What are your thoughts on how can we talk about this stuff without it sounding like we're just trying to fix ourselves?
Yeah.
Or have to be like, oh, there's all these broken pieces that, are wrong. And
yeah. No, and I get that, there was a lot of times that, and sometimes I still do. I feel like I'm a project to be that I'm working on all the time, which I'm sure I could dive down a whole nother rabbit hole of the perfectionism and all of that. That it's like the awareness is ruining my life. I know too much about myself now. But I get that, we think that everybody else has it figured out. Oh, look at her. She's never gets nervous. She's killing it every time. And it can be frustrating, and the comparison game, it's a dangerous one to play because you don't really know. Some people may just be really good at hiding it, and maybe they've found other ways to cope with it. But I think that everyone has their own issues, and maybe their issue isn't anxiety. Maybe it's something else that they have to work on, that they view themselves broken for because of that, So I think that to single ourselves out, like, oh, everybody else is doing great, they're accomplishing all those things, but oh, my anxiety is, it's keeping me down, or I'm, less than because of that. I think it's just, well, it's not true at all. So not letting yourself kind of get hooked on that thought and rationalizing it. And because when you dive into it, it's not true at all. We're not broken because of it.
No, I love what you're saying, because I'm hearing you say basically that if we think that there's something broken that we have to fix, that there's an unspoken extra layer of there's something unique about you personally that's broken, that's different and problematic from other people. And you're really bringing up, no, there may be things that we would like to improve because we could think in a more productive, healthy way, but it's part of being human. And that no matter what anybody else's external, looks like, that everybody's having something.
Yes.
Because
No.
it's so inherently part of being human, everybody has something. They may be coping or handling it better, or they may be masking better, but everybody has something because it's a part of being human. And so inherently that is not a broken part. That's just part of this experience.
Yeah, no, and that is exactly right. Yes, I totally agree.
And I feel like I need to reiterate what you were just saying before that, because I completely agree with the being kind to yourself. That is something that I know I have really had to work very hard on, of like, gosh, why am I such a jerk face to myself? Like, how could I do this different? I've tried for decades being a meanie. Okay, let's try it differently. But just that really also helps with that feeling of brokenness, because you're like, whoa, we're being kind and we're just handling something that is, right? It is right now I'm experiencing these feelings, or right now it just is. How can I handle this in a kind way? And it makes it much more pragmatic, which is so much more empowering, because you're just in the moment, in this present moment, And usually anytime you've got anxiety, you're about, 10 minutes or more into the future. So you're saying, okay, right here, right now, what can we do? Like, let's make this 3D. Let's stop having it be some scary external thing.
Yeah, exactly. And building upon like what you said about the kindness, I think a lot of people, they immediately think, oh, being kind to myself means I'm just going to sit on the couch all day and have a day off because my feelings are too much, or I'm going to, not go to the gym and be kind to myself, or they're going to just avoid the good things that are actually good for them. But I think being kind to yourself is doing the things that help you feel better. There are days where, yeah, you just need to take a day off and you just need a break, and that's totally fine. But I think having empathy with yourself, but also pushing yourself to do the things that are good for you and being intentional about that is also a big part of it too.
Oh, yeah. So as you've gone along, do you think the horse world is evolving in how it views mental health?
Yeah, no, I think that they are. I've been really so pleasantly surprised with all the positive feedback, and I'm so thankful for it. I always joke that the horse world kind of seems like 5 years, 10 years behind the whole, everybody else, because the mental health is a huge buzzword in other communities and very widely accepted in other areas. But kind of in our little community, it's not quite as talked about as much. And honestly, it's been really nice. People have been very forthcoming about everything and applauding the conversation being started, and it's been super refreshing. Yeah.
No, I've experienced a similar kind of thing where I've been surprised at how open people are and how they seem really ready for a lot of this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a belief about mental health that you wish more people would challenge?
I think that kind of back to what you were mentioning about how feeling broken, and I think a lot of people see it as a weakness,
Mhm.
or that you're less than because of it. And it's not true. That I think there's a lot of people that deal with, none of us have perfect mental spaces. None of us think all the right things every day and make all the right decisions. And so I think sometimes it just manifests in different ways for different people. So I think it's a universal thing that we're all dealing with. And I think a lot of people like to pretend or ignore that maybe they're having struggles, because there's different levels of it. You don't have to be having a total panic attack before a performance to be feeling anxious. Maybe you're just having little butterflies and it's distracting you. And so it's kind of at a lower level, but that's still something that you can address. And the person who's having a full blown panic attack isn't less than the person who's maybe just a little nervous. They just are kind of on different paths and different journeys. And so I think that recognizing that it's not a weakness is definitely something that could be addressed. Yeah.
Is there something about your personal journey that you're still in progress?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I would say that the last few months has kind of been the longest that I haven't felt anxiety like really taking over my day to day. I mean, I had dealt with it even when I was really young, but probably the past 5 or 6 years, it had been really impacting me and really affecting my day to day life. So now I've kind of learned the tools that have worked for me and have tried all the things and found out what has worked and what hasn't worked. And so I think that now I'm learning to be proactive, keep myself feeling good. And basically, I'm so sorry. I just like completely drew a blank. I'm like, it hasn't happened yet. I knew it was going to.
Don't worry about it.
Um, but yeah, so basically, I've been learning that what life is like without experiencing it every day. That's kind of been a weird experience because it was something that I had dealt with for 15 years. And so when some people comment and they're like, oh my gosh, like it is trying to ruin my life though, like it is horrible. And I think a lot of people, maybe because if they think they see me doing well now, that maybe I wouldn't understand that, but I get it completely. I lived it for a very long time. And I've been really fortunate that now that I'm feeling better and being able to kind of build this brand and build this community, I think it probably would have been really difficult for me to do back when it was affecting me so deeply. And so I'm really thankful that I've kind of can share my experience and share how deeply it affected me then, and kind of the things that I've gone through to get to where I'm at. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there an aspect of your personal journey that you feel really good about, like really complete? Like you're like, oh, that just feels good.
Yeah, I still feel like I'm very much in the evolving state of it. I definitely don't feel like, oh, I don't have anxiety anymore, or oh, I'm never depressed. Like there's definitely days where it happens. I'm becoming more proud of myself, like with I breakaway rope, and I've been riding horses my entire life, but I'd only started breakaway roping the last 3 years or so. And so learning that new skill has definitely brought up some old emotions, or right, intensified ones I was already having, because learning something new can feel really embarrassing. It can feel like very
You put yourself
just
out there as a public beginner. You're like, yep, I'm not very good at this. I'm a newbie. I'm gonna
yeah.
make mistakes.
Yeah, exactly. And just being, publicly making all these mistakes and messing up, it can take a toll on you. It is hard. Like I knew how to ride really well, but I definitely wasn't a seasoned roper, and I'm still not. But I am proud of myself for now. I can actually kind of have some of the tools to get through a run without completely and totally not knowing like where my head's at and just losing my head. So I'm pretty proud of that. Yeah.
Yeah. What
Mhm.
are some of the things that have been especially helpful to you?
Um, I think that having not being so attached to the result that I want, and then just trying to be in the moment, acknowledging that I'm nervous, but not letting it completely take me over. I still fall to it sometimes. Like it can still kind of take me over. And it kind of depends, like how big is, the event? Is there a lot of people? Is there people there that I know? And so I think that there's still a lot of factors that play into that. But honestly, it is still a big struggle, and I'm still kind of learning how to manage through that. Yeah.
But no, I think that's such a great example because I can hear that you feel a little uncomfortable. You're like, well, I can manage it sometimes, but other times it's not so good. But I think that's just because there are these different levels of pressure. And
Mm,
so we want to imagine that it's all the same, whether it's just you, I don't know, walking bareback in the back 40, or if it's you at, the NFR, but just that there are different levels of pressure. And so it's learning to apply tools at different levels, learning to stay more focused when there's more distractions. And there's just different levels. It's like riding itself. Like I remember when my daughters was starting to learn to ride, and she really thought I was holding out on her. Like she's like, okay, what else can we do? Because I was having her do something like, okay, walk the horse in a circle, walk a circle in the other way, trot a circle the other way. And it was like she really thought that there was some like secret horsey maneuver that I wasn't sharing. And so I mean, in some ways, sure, like, spins or sliding stops or what have you. Like there are some things, but for the most part, all horses, it's literally doing the same stuff, but better. It's like, can you walk your horse in a straight line? But like, no, but like a really straight line. Or can you make this turn? But like, keep the shoulders up in the turn. Or it's
mm,
just doing the same thing. It's like forward, back, left, right. It's the same stuff, just better. And I think people can really forget. And so they'll accept that for horses, right? Like, you know, with breakaway roping, I'm going to leave this chute and I'm going to throw my loop, but I'm going to do it better, right? You know that there's all these nuances. And so it's such a great reminder that mental stuff is the same way, right? We're learning, we're practicing our focus. with different, more distractions. We're practicing being resilient when the failure is more public. We're practicing like all these same
Yeah.
skills, just with a little bit of a new seasoning.
Yeah. No, exactly. And the more you do it, the exposure therapy of it does help. And
Yeah.
over time, it becomes a lot less scary. And I think addressing the other issues that might be causing the anxiety is good too, because maybe you're not just worried about, oh, what if I miss, or what if I mess up this maneuver? Maybe you're comparing yourself too much, or you're worried about that, what that specific person is going to say about you. And so I think that there's also all those other little nuanced things that we don't really realize are so connected to it too, that once we can kind of address those, that's a huge help also.
Yeah. Is there anything that you've found that you've changed your mind about when it comes to mental performance, healing, any of the advocacy that you do?
I think that one thing I have been noticing a lot lately is that there's really no one size fits all for what is going to work for people. Um, my boyfriend's a great example. I am very much like guru, read about all of it. Like, I want to know all the information. I'm going to be super nice to myself. Like, I'm just kind of more the analytical type and like very in my head. And he has to push himself harder and kind of have a more of a coach's voice in his head, whereas I have to have a kind of more of a loving voice in my head. So I think that it's opening my eyes to how different people react differently to different tools, and how, just finding what works for you. But you don't really know what works for you until you try it. So I think a lot of people, sometimes they don't want to even try it. They're like, oh, no, that's not going to work. That's not going to help me. And it's like, well, at least give it a chance, because it definitely might, And so I think that, yeah, everybody's different, and just kind of learning and trying out new practices, new habits, it can make a huge difference.
Yeah. Can you remember a moment when somebody else, because we were talking about just how when you can create content that people feel really seen and understood and how powerful that is. Can you recall a moment when somebody else really saw you and the impact that had on you?
I think that it's definitely given me a purpose, and it's helped me realize that, okay, some of my struggles can help other people. And so that has been a really good feeling, to feel as though, oh, it wasn't all for naught. I think that when we can kind of place some meaning behind the painful things that we went through, and maybe have there's some good that can come out of it, I mean, it is a huge, it's almost like kind of a huge weight has been lifted. Like, okay, all this wasn't for no reason. I didn't go through this for no reason. And it's had a huge positive impact on me too. I think that I probably have more confidence now going through all the things that I've gone through and learning all the things about myself than maybe I would have if I never really had to dive into any of that. But yeah, it's been really nice to see how other people relate to it, and they don't feel so alone in it. Yeah.
What's something that you wish more people knew about those silently struggling?
I think that it would be nice if people would, you know, I think a lot of us, our gut reaction when people say, "Oh, how are you doing?" A lot of us just say, "Oh, we're fine," or "I'm doing good," or "Everything's great." Um, but like, really talk to your friends and see how they're doing, and like, truly, because a lot of us, even if we're not intentionally trying to keep it from someone, I think that it's just kind of a habit to just say, "Oh, we're doing great," or "Everything's wonderful." And being more of an introverted person kind of sometimes lose sight of how important friendships are, and socializing, and kind of being around other people, and how big that is, because it's like every time I go out and call a friend or go to dinner with somebody, I always feel so much better. And I think that being a safe place for someone to talk about stuff is a huge thing. So I think that if more people can try and do that, then it would definitely have a positive impact.
No, I think that is so true. Just that the power of community and being together with people is that it doesn't have to be some huge intervention. It doesn't have to be like, doesn't always have to be some huge talk about, tell me your deepest feelings and secrets for 4 hours. It can just that there's so much power in those conversations with friends or dinners together, but where you're willing to go beyond, oh, I'm fine, to, this part's actually really great, or but I'm having a hard time here, or
Mm-hmm.
being willing to just have those relationships and communication, and what a powerful effect that has on your mental health to have those relationships and friendships.
Oh, definitely. Because I think when sometimes we ruminate in our heads too much about things and kind of create these stories and get stuck on this narrative in our minds. And then it's like, okay, but when we really talk it out with somebody,
Yeah.
sometimes it's not really that way, And so I think, and it kind of opens us up to seeing a bigger picture of things. And so I think that always helps.
Or even if it is that way, I found that there's so much relief in knowing that even if it is that terrible, there's somebody like by my side who understands it. And then you're not quite so alone.
Yeah,
And all
definitely.
of a sudden it's just better,
Yep.
at least a little bit. For someone who's listening right now who feels broken or unseen, what would you tell them?
I would say it's not going to stay that way forever. I think if you use the resources that are out there and try to find ways to learn more about yourself and learn what helps you, then things can truly get better. You also need to want to help yourself. I think that that's a big part of it too. A lot of us kind of get stuck in this rut, and then that's how we're used to feeling. And then we tell ourselves, oh, I'll always feel this way, or I'm never going to get out of this. It's never going to change. And so we just kind of allow ourselves to stay in that headspace. And I think that really trying to push yourself to want to do the work and go see a therapist, learn more about yourself, talk to a friend, try changing your habits, all that kind of stuff. I think if we really try to make an effort to do those things, that it won't always be that way. Yeah.
All right. So, lightning round. What's one word you're reclaiming right now?
I think the concept of kind of being perfect, that's a big one for me, and being attached to how I view an outcome. If I want a perfect outcome, what does that look like to anything, to my day, to that performance, to whatever. And I think that kind of changing what that looks like for me and not being so attached to how I want things to go has been definitely a big shift for me. Yeah.
What is your ideal ride with your horse?
Oh gosh. Well, we had spent some time in Arizona a year or two ago and lived there for almost a year in Wickenburg. And there is nothing like a Wickenburg, Arizona sunset. And so that I think would definitely be a pretty dang good ride. I don't care if it's in the arena, in the wash, I don't care where it's at, but man, evenings down out there are just beautiful. So yeah, definitely.
All right. Favorite grounding tool or mental reset in 30 seconds or less?
So I think that definitely be acknowledging and thanking the anxiety for trying to help, but she's just doing too much. And then just, we don't always realize how much we're holding our breath about stuff, so really just trying to focus on the moment, focus on your breathing. Sounds cheesy, but man, it works.
Well, what is next for Buck the Stigma?
So we're coming out with new merch soon. We're going to be adding more lines. We might be collaborating with other brands soon. I would love to come out with a podcast at some point in the next year or two. We got all kinds of stuff going on. I have super big dreams and aspirations for the socials and just collaborating with other people. So, I mean, the sky's the limit. I got a pretty crazy vision for it, but we're really excited. I hopefully will be releasing some new tank tops, t-shirts within the next few weeks. So I'm excited for that.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Where can people go to connect deeper with you?
Yep. So we're on Instagram at Buck.TheStigma, and then our website is BuckTheStigma.co. I have a TikTok. It is in the little baby stage at the moment. I'm working on getting that growing, but we're definitely super active on Instagram, and the website is a great place to go to snag some apparel. So yeah.
If listeners could take away one thing from this conversation today, what do you hope that it is?
I think just to give yourself more grace and to not compare your journey to anybody else's. I think especially nowadays, we want instant gratification, things to happen right away. I want to be good at this now. And I think that, just remember that if you're trying something new or if you're struggling, all of it's a skill that eventually, the more you do it, the more you'll get better at it. And we were all beginners once. So, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, Devin. It's just been my pleasure to talk with you today.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been so great talking to you.
If today's podcast episode stirred something in you, if you found yourself nodding along or thinking, ugh, that's me, I want you to know it doesn't have to stay that way. Ride Free is your next right step. It's for the rider who's tired of feeling like her horse dreams are slipping away. Not because she doesn't care, but because she's just not enjoying it anymore. This is about getting your spark back, your voice, your freedom. And I will be walking alongside you. This first beta round is going to be small, intimate, and application only. If selected, you'll get full access to my newest training inside the program, live coaching calls, and a private group where we can work closely together over the next few months, all for just $97. This beta round is application only because it is so intimate and I will be pouring so much into this group. I am looking for a small, select group of riders who are ready to rebuild their confidence, reconnect with their horse, and bring the joy back into their riding life. If that sounds like the reset you've been praying for, click the link in the show notes to get your application in today. You've got just one life, and you didn't get the horse just to cry in your truck. Let's ride bold. Let's ride free.